So I think is when they play Lupin or any like the national anthem. And after battling through the most grueling match of her career, Alex Ella stands on the court exhausted, every muscle aching, lungs burning, and hands still trembling from adrenaline. The crowd is on its feet, chanting her name as she grips her worn, sweat-soaked racket, strings frayed, grip unraveling, tape barely holding it together. To anyone else, it looks like damaged equipment ready to be replaced. But to her it represents years of sacrifice. The early mornings, the heartbreaking losses and the victories that kept her believing. In that emotional moment, a powerful figure rises from the VIP section, Sheikh Khaled al-Rashid, a billionaire worth over $50 billion known for owning private islands, collecting rare Ferraris, and casually purchasing priceless art. Walking beside him is a young girl around 12 or 13, visibly overwhelmed with emotion. As the stadium falls into complete silence, the billionaire confidently takes the microphone from a stunned official and locks eyes with Alex, signaling that something extraordinary is about to unfold, points directly at the battered tape-wrapped racket in her hand and makes an offer that freezes the entire stadium. $10 million in cash for that single racket. Not a sponsorship deal, not a long-term contract. $10 million US on the spot. More money than many professional players earn in a lifetime. Enough to secure generations, buy homes across continents, and erase financial worry forever. For most people, the decision would be instant. They would hand over the racket before the sentence was even finished. But Alex Ella is not most people. She doesn't hesitate. She doesn't blink. In just 5 seconds, she delivers a response so sincere, so powerful, and so filled with raw emotion that it stuns the crowd and moves the billionaire and his young daughter to tears on live television. It becomes more than a viral moment. It becomes a statement about integrity, values, and what truly defines a champion. This isn't just about money. It's about the priceless nature of conviction when unlimited wealth meets a spirit that simply cannot be bought. You truly understand the significance of what unfolded on that court. We have to rewind to the battle that took place just moments earlier. This wasn't a friendly exhibition or a routine tournament match. It was a war. The stakes were sky high and Alex Ella was fighting for everything. As the pride of the Philippines, she has built a journey that has inspired tennis fans worldwide. From training at the prestigious Rafa Nadal Academy in Spain to grinding through the unforgiving ITF circuit, battling qualifiers, and making history as the first Filipino to win a junior Grand Slam singles title at the US Open, her rise has been nothing short of remarkable. But on this particular day, the energy felt different. The stadium buzzed with electricity, thick with tension and anticipation, as if everyone present could sense that they were witnessing more than just a match. They were witnessing a defining moment. The expectations were crushing, pressing down on her shoulders as she faced an opponent playing the match of her life. The rallies were brutal. 20, even 30-shot exchanges with both players sprinting baseline to baseline, firing ground strokes that cracked through the stadium like gunshots. Alex Ella unleashed her signature left-handed forehand, carving impossible angles that seemed to bend the laws of geometry, but her opponent refused to yield. It was a pure dog fight, every set fiercely contested, every game a war. The crowd erupted with every point, Filipino flags waving wildly in a sea of red, blue, white, and yellow. The tension was suffocating. Then came championship point. The stadium fell into complete silence. You could almost hear the wind moving through the arena. Alex tossed the ball high, delivered a precise, powerful serve, and after a fierce exchange, slid effortlessly across the clay, just as she had perfected during her year's training in Spain, and ripped a forehand winner down the line that her opponent couldn't touch. Game, set, match. The stadium exploded in a primal roar. Fans leapt to their feet, screaming, crying, embracing strangers as flags waved in celebration. Overcome, Alex dropped a racket, bent over with her hands on her knees, and let the magnitude of the moment wash over her. This was the kind of victory athletes dream about their entire lives. This was the moment that made every sacrifice, every painful loss, every brutal early morning and exhausting late night worth it. Alex Ella looked up toward her team in the players' box and saw pure joy and relief written across their faces. This wasn't just another victory to add to the record books. It was validation. It was proof. It was a statement to the tennis world that she belonged. Normally, the story would follow a familiar script. The trophy ceremony, the formal speeches, the sponsor presentations, the oversized check, the gracious thank you interview, the confetti, the photographs, and the celebration. But this was not a normal day. From the most exclusive VIP section of the arena, a powerful figure began descending toward the court. Security instinctively stepped forward to stop him, but he dismissed them with effortless authority. It was Sheikh Khaled al-Rashid. Those who recognized him immediately sensed that something extraordinary was about to unfold. For anyone unfamiliar with his name, understand this. He wasn't just wealthy. He operated in a financial universe that only a fraction of the world could even comprehend. His fortune, built through oil, real estate, technology investments, and vast business ventures across the Middle East and beyond, was estimated at over $50 billion, a figure larger than the GDP of some small nations. Sheikh Khaled al-Rashid lived in a financial reality most people could barely comprehend. He owned multiple private jets simply because he could. Private Mediterranean islands complete with helipads and harbors, and rare car collections featuring models so exclusive only a handful existed worldwide. For him, money had never been a limitation. If he desired something, it was his. Walking quickly beside him was his young daughter, Aisha al-Rashid, clutching a tennis ball as though it were priceless. She was visibly trembling, eyes shining with unshed tears, completely transfixed, not by the cameras turning toward her, nor by the roaring crowd, but by Alex Ella herself. She stared at the champion as if witnessing a real-life superhero. With calm authority born from a lifetime of power, Sheikh Khaled approached a stunned tournament official and took the microphone, the entire stadium holding its breath as he prepared to speak. The tournament official stood frozen, glancing around helplessly as protocol unraveled in real time. The roaring celebration slowly dissolved into uneasy silence as fans realized something extraordinary, almost surreal, was unfolding. Whispers rippled through the stands as those who recognized Sheikh Khaled al-Rashid hurriedly explained to others who he was. When he finally spoke, his deep authoritative voice echoed through the stadium, each word deliberate, steady, and unexpectedly emotional. Though known as a stoic titan of business, today he spoke first not as a billionaire but as a father. He gently gestured toward his daughter, Aisha al-Rashid, and the cameras zoomed in on her tear-filled eyes. He explained that she had idolized Alex Ella for years, that posters of the Filipina champion covered her bedroom walls, and that she spent countless hours on their private tennis courts trying to replicate Alex's signature forehand, sometimes until exhaustion brought her to tears. He shared how Aisha had pleaded to attend this tournament, how they had traveled specifically to watch her hero compete. Then he turned directly to Alex, who was still catching her breath, still gripping the battle-worn racket that had just secured victory. His voice softened as he told her she was more than an athlete to his daughter. She was an inspiration, a role model, a symbol of perseverance and integrity. And then, with the entire stadium holding its breath, he made the offer that would send shock waves far beyond the arena. He wanted to buy the very racket she had just used to win. He wasn't offering a few thousand or even a generous six-figure sum. Sheikh al-Rashid was offering $10 million US for the championship racket. He made it clear this was no joke and no publicity stunt. Pulling a checkbook from his jacket, he held it up before the stunned crowd, ready to write the amount on the spot. A collective gasp swept through the stadium. $10 million. The number echoed in everyone's mind, sounding more surreal each time. Broadcasters scrambled to process what was happening while social media exploded within seconds. Clips of the offer spreading across the globe. What had been a tennis final was suddenly an international spectacle. Tio grasped the magnitude of that figure. Consider sports memorabilia history. A game-worn jersey for Michael Jordan's 1998 NBA Finals sold for over $10 million. And a 1952 baseball card of Mickey Mantle fetched $12 million, items tied to legends and decades of cultural significance. Yet here was a billionaire offering comparable money for a racket Alex Ella had used just minutes earlier. The sweat still fresh on the grip. The moment not even cooled by time. Sensing the disbelief, he doubled down, explaining that to him this wasn't about buying equipment. It was about securing a symbol. In his eyes, the racket represented passion, sacrifice, and excellence. Values he wanted his daughter Aisha al-Rashid to carry with her forever. To repeatedly offer $10 million is tone sincere, even providing his contact details and inviting her team to discuss it further if she wished. To understand the weight of that figure, consider that $10 million exceeds the total career prize money of most professional players. Only icons like Roger Federer, Serena Williams, Venus Williams, and Novak Djokovic have earned that level of tournament income across their legendary careers. For someone still early in her journey like Alex Ella, it represented generational wealth, freedom from training costs, travel expenses, coaching fees, physiotherapy bills, and the financial pressures that end so many promising careers. It was enough to fund tennis mice across the Philippines, or to walk away from the sport entirely and live in comfort for decades. The camera zoomed tightly onto her face as the stadium fell into absolute silence. For 5 long seconds that felt like hours, she said nothing, gripping the racket that had just secured her victory. No one could read her expression. Was she tempted, calculating, wrestling with the magnitude of what stood before her? What happened next resonated far beyond tennis because it touched something universal. In a world often driven by money, sponsorships, and transactions, she looked at $10 million life-changing wealth and refused to let it define her. Her decision wasn't just about a racket. It was about values. It reminded people that integrity still exists, that not everything has a price, and that character can outweigh currency and the Philippines. The reaction went beyond pride. It bordered on reverence. Alex was already celebrated for her achievements, but this moment elevated her into something greater. She became more than a champion on the court. She became a symbol of national values, grace under pressure, humility, and victory, and the belief that relationships and principles matter more than material wealth. Alexandra Ella's decision has elevated her beyond athlete status. She has become the ultimate role model for children across the Philippines. Her name is now mentioned alongside the country's greatest heroes and cultural icons. With discussions already underway about naming streets and facilities after her, the cultural impact of that moment cannot be overstated. So, what comes next for her after turning down $10 million and becoming a global sensation for all the right reasons? Ironically, marketing experts suggest that this very choice could end up earning her far more than that sum over the course of her career. Authenticity is the most valuable currency in today's world. And what happened on that court cannot be faked, scripted, or manufactured in a boardroom. Brands from Nike and Adidas to Rolex and other luxury companies are now watching closely. When someone wears an Alexandra Ella jersey or purchases a product she endorses, they aren't just supporting a tennis player, they're supporting a young woman who looked a billionaire in the eye and said no, who gave away something priceless because inspiring a young girl mattered more than money. For Ella, this moment allows her to return to what she loves most: competing, improving, and chasing her dreams. Grand Slam tournaments like the French Open, Wimbledon, the US Open, and the Australian Open await her. And with millions of fans now invested in her journey, she enters this next chapter with momentum that money simply cannot buy. The path ahead is far from easy. Professional tennis is unforgiving, but the incident has proven her mental fortitude and clarity of purpose. She chose the hard road, the road of continued effort, growth, and dedication. And that is why people will continue to follow and be inspired by her story. Days after the moment, the video has been viewed over 200 million times, translated into dozens of languages, analyzed, celebrated, and shared as inspiration worldwide. Alexandra Ella has given the world a moment that transcends scores, trophies, and statistics. It is about character, integrity, and humanity. She reminded us all that while money can buy access, it cannot purchase the heart of a champion, the values that define us, or the essence of what makes us truly human. Sheikh Khaled learned a lesson no amount of wealth could teach. Aisha received more than a racket. She received a blueprint for a meaningful life. And the world was reminded of what sports are really about: human connection, inspiration, and the courage to stand by your principles. Oh, here's the question for you, champions. If someone offered $10 million for something that means the world to you, but could technically be replaced, would you take it, or would you do what Alexandra Ella did? There is no simple answer, no right or wrong choice. It's about values, priorities, and the courage to do what feels truly right. It all comes down to priorities, values, and what truly matters to you. Here's what I want you to do. If you would have taken the money, and there's absolutely no shame in that, type cash in the comments below. If you would have given it away like Alexandra Ella did, type legend. Let's see where everyone stands. I have a feeling this is going to spark some incredible discussions in the comment section. And while you're down there leaving your comment, don't forget to smash that like button if you even have an ounce of respect for what Alexandra Ella did. Hit subscribe and ring the notification bell for Champions Tennis. Because here, we don't just cover scores and rankings. We cover the soul of tennis. We dive into the stories that remind us why we fell in love with this beautiful sport in the first place. We celebrate athletes who compete with integrity and inspire the next generation. Until next time, champions, keep your eye on the ball. Keep your heart in the game and remember the greatest victories don't always show up on the scoreboard. Peace. Alex, after a terrific year last year, how does it feel to be making your main draw debut in Melbourne? It feels great. I'm super excited. Surprise. Excited.
Through oil, real estate, technology, investments, and various business ventures across the Middle East and beyond is estimated to exceed $50 billion. To put that in perspective, that's more than the GDP of some small countries. This is a man who owns multiple private jets, not because he needs them, but because he can. He owns islands in the Mediterranean that have their own helipads and private harbors. He has car collections that include vehicles so rare that only 3 or 4 exist in the entire world. When he wants something, he gets it. Money has never been an obstacle for him in his entire life. Walking beside him, almost having to jog to keep up with his determined stride, was a young girl. This was Aisha Al-Rashid, his daughter, and she was clutching a tennis ball in her hands like it was the most precious object in the universe. Even from a distance, you could see that she was trembling. Her eyes were wide, glistening with tears that hadn't quite fallen yet. She wasn't looking at the cameras that were starting to swivel in her direction. She wasn't looking at the crowd. She was staring at Alexandra Ella, like she was looking at a superhero who had just stepped out of the pages of a comic book and into real life. The Sheikh approached the tournament official and, with the kind of commanding presence that comes from decades of being the most powerful person in any room, he enters, took the microphone. The official looked confused, glancing around for guidance. Tournament protocol was being shattered right before everyone's eyes. But what could anyone really do? The crowd, sensing that something bizarre and unprecedented was unfolding, began to quiet down. The celebration that had been exploding just moments before was now replaced with confused anticipation. What was happening? Why was this man on the court? Murmurs rippled through the stands as people who recognized the Sheikh began explaining to those around them who he was. Sheikh Khalid's voice, deep and authoritative with that distinctive accent that marked him as someone from the Arabian Peninsula, boomed through the stadium speakers. Every word was clear, deliberate, and heavy with emotion that surprised those who knew him as typically stoic and businesslike. He began by explaining who he was, though his presence alone spoke volumes. Then he gestured to his daughter, and the cameras zoomed in on Aisha's face, capturing the raw emotion. There, he said something that immediately silenced any remaining chatter in the stadium. He said that he was above all else a father, and that he would do absolutely anything to make his daughter happy. He explained that Aisha had been a devoted fan of Alexandria Isla for years, that she had posters of Isla in her bedroom, that she spent hours in their private tennis courts trying to copy Isla's forehand, often to the point of exhaustion and frustration. He described how Aisha had begged him to bring her to this tournament, how they had traveled specifically to watch a compete. Then he turned to face Alexandra Isla directly, still catching her breath from the match, still holding that victorious racket, looked confused but attentive. The Sheikh's next words sent shock waves through the stadium that are still reverberating around the world days later. He told Ella that she was more than just a tennis player to his daughter. She was an inspiration, a role model, a symbol of everything that is good in sport. And then he made his offer. He wanted to purchase the racket Tila had just used to win the championship. Not for a normal price. Not for a few thousand. He was offering $10 million United States dollars. He emphasized that this was not a joke, not a publicity stunt, but a genuine offer. He pulled out an actual checkbook from his jacket pocket and held it up for everyone to see. He was prepared to write that check right there, right then in front of thousands of witnesses. The stadium gasped. It was a collective sound of disbelief, a shared moment of, did we really just hear what we think we heard? $10 million. The number kept echoing in people's minds, each time sounding more absurd and impossible. Commentators in the broadcast booth were scrambling, completely unprepared for anything like this. Social media immediately went nuclear. Within seconds, clips of the Sheik's offer were being shared millions of times across every platform. The trending topics changed instantaneously. This was no longer just a tennis tournament. This had become a global phenomenon. To put this offer in perspective for those who might not fully grasp how insane it is, let's talk about sports memorabilia history. The most expensive pieces of sports memorabilia ever sold include things like a Michael Jordan game-worn jersey from the 1998 NBA Finals that sold for over $10 million, a Mickey Mantle baseball card from 1952 sold for $12 million. These are items connected to the absolute greatest athletes in their respective sports from defining moments in sports history, and they've had decades to accumulate cultural and historical significance. The Sheik was offering an amount in that same stratosphere for a tennis racket that Ella had just used minutes ago. The paint was still fresh on this moment. The racket wasn't even cool yet from being gripped so tightly during the match. The sweat on the handle hadn't even dried. Shake it, perhaps sensing that people needed him to clarify his seriousness. Doubled down. He explained that to him. This wasn't just a transaction for an object. This racket, in his eyes, had transcended being merely a piece of sporting equipment. It had become a symbol of passion, dedication, and excellence. All things he desperately wanted his daughter to understand and embrace. He believed that owning this racket would inspire Aisha for the rest of her life, would be a tangible connection to the qualities he saw in Ella. He repeated his offer, his voice earnest. $10 million. He even gave his contact information and told A to reach out through her management team if she wanted to discuss the details. 4. Context. Understand that $10 million is more than the total career prize money of the vast majority of professional tennis players. Only the absolute elite, your Federers, your Williams sisters, your Djokovic's, earn that kind of money from tournament winnings over the course of their entire careers. For someone still in the relatively early stages of their professional journey like Ella, this represented generational wealth. This was enough money to never have to worry about training costs, travel expenses, coaching fees, physiotherapy. Right or wrong answer. It's about priorities and values and what matters most to you. Here's what I want you to do. If you would have taken the money, and there's no shame in that, type the word cash in the comments below. If you would have given it away like Alex did, type the word legend. Let's see where everyone stands. I have a feeling this is going to spark some incredible discussions in the comment section. And while you're down there leaving a comment, don't forget to absolutely smash that like button if you have even an ounce of respect for what Alexandria Isla did. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell for Champions Tennis, because we don't just cover the scores and rankings, we cover the soul of tennis. We dive into the stories that remind us why we fell in love with this beautiful sport in the first place. We celebrate the athletes who compete with integrity and inspire the next generation. Until next time, champions, keep your eye on the ball, keep your